For 3 glorious decades, from 1962 to 1992, Johnny Carson wasn't just a television host. He was an institution, a national treasure, and the undisputed king of late night. Every single weeknight, millions of Americans tuned in, not just to watch a show, but to participate in a communal ritual. From his opening monologue, dissecting the day's headlines with unparalleled wit, to his charming, often probing interviews with the world's biggest stars, Carson possessed an almost magical ability to make everyone feel like they were part of an exclusive, yet incredibly welcoming late-night club. Before we get started, please consider liking and subscribing. Your support is greatly appreciated. His tenure on The Tonight Show transcended mere entertainment. It became a cultural barometer, a launching pad for countless comedians, actors, and musicians, and a nightly source of comfort and laughter that shaped American consciousness. Carson's effortless charm, razor-sharp intelligence, and an uncanny ability to navigate any conversational curveball made him seem utterly invincible. He cultivated an image of cool composure, a master of ceremonies who always had the situation and his guests firmly in hand. The show was a well-oiled machine, meticulously produced, yet always feeling spontaneous and alive, thanks to Carson's improvisational genius, his gentle smirk, the way he leaned back in his chair, the perfectly timed pause before a punchline. These were iconic gestures that signified control, sophistication, and a world where everything, no matter how chaotic, would ultimately be brought back to order by the steady hand of Johnny Carson. His presence was a comforting constant in a rapidly changing world. While the public was informed well in advance of Johnny Carson's planned retirement from The Tonight Show in May 1992, culminating in a poignant final episode, the precise moment of his definitive internal decision has often been a subject of quiet speculation. It wasn't a sudden scandal or a dramatic forced exit that brought down the curtain on his legendary career. Instead, it was a more profound, almost philosophical realization, catalyzed by the experiences of his final months on air, particularly the emotional resonance of his ultimate guest appearance. This culminating moment, rather than a single explosive incident, subtly affirmed for Carson that the time was truly right to step away, solidifying a choice that had likely been brewing beneath the surface. He wasn't pushed. He was simply given the clearest sign yet that his unparalleled performance had reached its perfect, glorious end. This nuanced understanding elevates his departure from a mere retirement to a conscious, almost poetic act of leaving on top, ensuring his legacy remained untarnished. It highlights Carson's unparalleled understanding of timing, not just comedic timing, but the ultimate timing of a legendary career. He didn't want to fade into irrelevance. He chose to conclude, leaving millions yearning for more. To truly grasp how he arrived at this profound decision, we must delve into the subtle shifts in his later years and how certain interactions, culminating with a specific final guest, served as powerful, undeniable affirmations of his intuitive sense that the curtain was meant to fall, not with a bang, but with a deeply resonant, unforgettable silence. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, The Tonight Show, under Johnny Carson, was still the undisputed king of late night, but the television and cultural landscape around it was undeniably in flux. Cable television was exploding, offering a myriad of new options. Comedy was evolving, with a new generation of edgier, often more overtly cynical voices emerging. Carson, ever astute to the nuances of popular culture, undoubtedly sensed these shifts. While he could adapt, and indeed did, the sheer effort required to maintain his fresh, relevant edge for 3 decades was immense. 30 years is an astonishing run for any television program, let alone one anchored by a single host in a demanding daily format. By the early 1990s, Carson had outlasted countless competitors and maintained an unprecedented level of creative control and audience loyalty. Yet such unparalleled longevity comes with its own unique burdens. The constant pressure to be fresh, funny, and engaging 5 nights a week, year after year, undoubtedly took its toll. Behind the effortless charm, the relentless grind of late-night television, the constant travel, the endless pursuit of new material, and the often superficial nature of celebrity interviews might have begun to feel less like a calling and more like a demanding routine. Carson was a deeply private man, and the relentless public exposure, even for a few hours a night, was a profound personal sacrifice. He had nothing left to prove, having achieved every imaginable accolade in his field. The question for him likely transitioned from, "Can I still do this at this level?" to, "Do I want to still do this when I've already perfected it to an art form?" This subtle but significant shift from an ambitious drive to a reflective contemplation is a common phase for many legends approaching the apex of their careers. The show's format, while timeless, was also a product of its era, as new, more aggressive, and often less formal talk. Show hosts began to emerge, like Arsenio Hall, or even the early stirrings of Conan O'Brien and David Letterman's post-Carson styles. Carson's elegant, controlled approach, while still revered, perhaps felt increasingly like a relic of a bygone era, even to him. He was a master craftsman, but the tools and the very nature of the craft were subtly changing around him. While Johnny Carson's decision to retire was a deeply personal and long-considered one, the final stages of that decision, the ultimate crystallization of his knowing, can be powerfully linked to the unforgettable appearances of his last regular guests, particularly the one that became etched into the memory of audiences worldwide. Bette Midler. Midler, a force of nature, a comedic and musical powerhouse, made her final appearance on The Tonight Show as a guest on May 21, 1992, the penultimate episode before Carson's grand finale. She was, in many ways, the perfect distillation of Carson's guest philosophy, immensely talented, genuinely witty, and capable of both uproarious laughter and profound vulnerability. But what transpired during her last appearance was a masterclass in emotional honesty that, some believe, provided Carson with the ultimate affirmation of his decision to conclude. Midler's segment that night was already set to be special. She was a longtime friend and admirer of Carson, and her appearances were always electric. After a typically hilarious and heartfelt interview, Midler prepared for her musical performance. Instead of launching into one of her upbeat hits, she made an unexpected, deeply personal choice. She chose to serenade Carson directly with a performance that transcended mere entertainment and became a deeply moving tribute. She sang "One More for My Baby," a classic saloon song often performed by Frank Sinatra. But as she sang the lyrics, her gaze was fixed solely on Carson. Her voice, usually so brassy and full of bravado, took on a tender, almost fragile quality. She added a personal, unscripted touch by ad-libbing lyrics, changing "One More for the Road" to "One More for the Road, Johnny." Then she transitioned, without missing a beat, into a profoundly poignant rendition of "Here's That Rainy Day." As she performed, the emotion in her voice was palpable, a mix of admiration, nostalgia, and a touch of melancholy for an ending era. Carson, known for his stoicism and his guarded emotions, was visibly touched. The cameras captured him, usually the master of composure, tearing up, wiping away tears with his handkerchief. It was an incredibly raw, authentic moment of shared emotion, utterly unscripted and intensely personal. Midler then moved to his desk, kneeling before him and singing directly to him, her voice brimming with love and respect. She concluded the performance not with a flourish, but with a quiet, heartfelt thank you. This extraordinary performance by Bette Midler wasn't a crisis. It was a profound epiphany for Johnny Carson. It was a mirror reflecting back to him the immense love, respect, and emotional connection he had forged with his audience and his peers over 3 decades. It was a confirmation that he didn't need to strive for anything more. He had achieved the ultimate. The moment was so pure, so unvarnished, so utterly perfect in its emotional resonance that it left no doubt this specific, deeply reflective interaction, coming so late in his career and so close to his final show, cemented Carson's understanding that he had not just hosted a show, he had created a space of unparalleled human connection. To continue beyond such a perfect, emotionally resonant peak would be to risk diminishing the very magic he had spent a lifetime perfecting. Midler's performance provided the definitive, unspoken answer to any lingering doubts. It was a beautiful, almost sacred confirmation that his work was not just done, but perfectly completed. He wasn't closing the show because he had to. He was closing it because he had reached a point of absolute, undeniable, artistic, and personal fulfillment. It was about preserving the perfection, about ensuring that The Tonight Show, under his stewardship, would always be remembered for its excellence, its grace, and its unparalleled contribution to television history, ending on a soaring, unforgettable high note that would echo through time. The impact of Bette Midler's performance on May 21st, 1992, resonated far beyond the walls of the NBC studio. For millions watching at home, it was a moment of raw, unscripted emotion that transcended typical late-night television. It was the king of late night, known for his masterful control and emotional reserve, visibly moved to tears. This powerful, humanizing moment served as a poignant prelude to the ultimate farewell, cementing the significance of his imminent departure. In the days immediately following Midler's serenade, the media didn't erupt in scandal or controversy. Instead, it swelled with tributes and reflections. Journalists and critics, usually quick to dissect and analyze, focused on the deep emotional connection witnessed on screen. News segments replayed the clip, highlighting Carson's tearful reaction and Midler's heartfelt tribute. Op-eds spoke not of a show ending, but of an era drawing to a close, a testament to the profound bond Carson had forged with his audience. There was an unspoken understanding that this was not a forced conclusion, but a deeply personal, almost artistic decision by a man who knew precisely when to take his final bow. The prevailing sentiment was one of profound respect and gratitude, rather than shock or dismay at a sudden ending. Everyone knew the final show was coming, and this moment simply underscored why. It felt so right, so inevitable, and so deeply personal for Carson. It was a shared experience of collective emotion, a public shedding of tears for a beloved figure. For Johnny Carson himself, the Bette Midler performance was the ultimate affirmation of a decision that had quietly matured within him. He was a private man who rarely showed overt emotion, especially on camera. To be so visibly moved, so openly touched, spoke volumes. It confirmed what his inner voice had likely been telling him for some time, that he had achieved everything he set out to do and more. He had connected with millions, launched countless careers, and maintained an unparalleled standard of excellence for 30 years. Midler's unexpected, raw vulnerability and profound respect delivered directly to him was not a reason to quit out of despair, but a beautiful, unsolicited sign of completion. It cemented his belief that ending the show now, while it was still at its zenith of quality and public adoration, was the correct, even noble, path. He didn't want to overstay his welcome, to see the show's magic fade, or for his own passion to wane into routine. The emotional resonance of that night, with the outpouring of genuine affection from Midler, and the palpable connection with the audience gave him the unequivocal confirmation that he was doing the right thing. It was a final, deeply personal message from the universe, delivered through the voice of a dear friend and extraordinary artist, that his work was not only complete but had achieved a rare state of perfection. Johnny Carson's final Tonight Show episode on May 22, 1992, cemented his place in television history as a legend who left on his own terms, at the very peak of his powers. The decision, underscored by the emotional weight of moments like the one with Bette Midler, ensured his legacy would remain untarnished, a testament to his unique blend of professionalism, wit, and profound connection. The final broadcast of The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson, was a masterclass in dignified farewell. There were no celebrity guests in the traditional interview sense. Instead, it was a reflective, deeply personal hour. Carson spoke directly to his audience, thanking them, sharing anecdotes, and playing clips from his extraordinary 3-decade run. The atmosphere was one of quiet reflection, gratitude, and immense respect. This finality, delivered with his characteristic grace and understated emotion, was a direct consequence of his careful planning and his absolute conviction that it was the right time to go. The emotional high point provided by performances like Midler's in the preceding nights amplified the sense of a perfectly choreographed conclusion. It wasn't an abrupt end caused by scandal. It was the conscious, powerful choice to finish his monumental symphony on the most resonant, unforgettable note possible. Carson understood that the ultimate act of control for a performer is knowing when to leave the stage while the applause is still deafening. He didn't want the inevitable decline that often accompanies long-running shows. He wanted The Tonight Show to be remembered for its brilliance, its consistent quality, and its unique place in American culture. His decision, perhaps solidified by the raw emotion of his interactions in his final weeks, ensured exactly that. Johnny Carson's decision to close The Tonight Show, because he felt his journey was complete, powerfully affirmed by the meaningful encounters of his final broadcasts, stands as a testament to his unparalleled understanding of the craft and his own limits. He was a pioneer who defined late-night television, shaping the careers of countless entertainers and providing a nightly comfort to millions. His wit was sharp, his interviews insightful, and his presence commanding yet always approachable. The reason for his departure wasn't a scandal or a public outcry. It was the culmination of 3 decades of relentless excellence, quietly confirmed by moments of profound human connection, like the one shared with Bette Midler. This allowed him to maintain absolute control over his narrative, solidifying his status as a master not just of comedy, but of his own destiny. The Tonight Show, under Johnny Carson, is remembered as an unblemished triumph, precisely because its king knew when it was time to leave, ensuring that his legacy would forever remain untarnished and his throne forever secure. He didn't just host a show, he created an enduring institution that concluded on its own terms, leaving behind an indelible mark on television history. Thank you so much to everyone who watched to the end. Your likes and subscriptions are incredibly valuable. And be sure to hit the bell so you never miss new videos and stay updated.